Hello everyone, this is John from Vulgar Kitten Studios, and welcome back to episode 3 of our Introduction to Web Development and PHP MVC video series. What we're going to be doing today is we're actually going to be taking a look at, we're going to be actually writing a little bit of code, and we're going to look at some routing, possibly some auto-loading, and just basically getting everything bootstrapped in our application. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call it app. Now within app is going to be all of the files and folders that actually make up the meat of our application. And what we want to do is we want to have this protected. So like our document root is going to be the public folder, obviously. And so that's where our index.php file is going to go. And we're also going to create a new folder in here called assets. And that's where things like our CSS, our JavaScript, images, and fonts would go. And so we also need an htaccess file in here, but we're not going to make that one yet. We want to do one in our app folder because, like I said, we want like just alone having the document root set to public also adds a little bit of security. So that way everything that is visible to the public is within this directory, and in order to get to this directory, a hacker or an attacker would have to do some tricky shit. So that's why we have separated them out like this. But we're going to go ahead and just create a new file in here. I'm going to go ahead and save it out. We call it .htaccess. And what a .htaccess file does, it basically allows you to set recursive Apache rules, so you can actually configure the server within your web apps directly using an htaccess file. And all we really want to do in this folder is just add a single line, which is going to be options minus indexes, because we want to disallow any kind of access to this directory, and so that's why we do that. Now, what we actually want to do within here is we want to start actually routing our application and everything, which honestly I think that we should probably auto load first. So I'm going to come into our composer.json file, and we're gonna actually set up our auto loading. So what I want to do this is we're gonna use Composer to do it. So we're gonna create a new object right here, and that's gonna be called auto load. And this is going to be equal to a new object, and we need to make sure that we put our comment down there to make sure that it knows to go to the next object in here. And the method of auto loading that we want to use is PSR4, and that's a standard. So if you want to know more about PSR for auto loading, you can go online and look up a wiki for it and everything. But basically, what this is it's a standard of auto loading that's better than PSR0. So in the old days, what we would do is we would create a file and then auto load them and using the SPO auto load register function. And that's all fine and good. That works perfectly fine. But this method actually allows us to use namespaces, and namespaces are quite a bit more effective than doing it the old way, in the procedural programming way. We want to do it in an object-oriented programming way. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a namespace. And the namespace that we're going to use is sexy, and that's going to be followed by backslash, but you see that causes syntax error, so we also need to escape that backslash since we're using JSON. And we're going to namespace our entire application, so that would be the app folder followed by slash here. And that is going to namespace our entire application, everything within app under sexy. So that way everything is residing under our own namespace. And so in order to be able to use this, what we have to do is we have to use composer dump auto load, and we'll use tag O for optimized, and that will actually generate the auto load file, and that is this auto load file here. So basically it just adds rules into Composer's native auto loading for our own application. So now what we can do is we can create different namespaces within here, like app. I'm going to call it app.php, and that is a folder. My bad. We don't want a folder, we want a file. So we'll create a new file. and just call it app.php. So now within here, we'll have to open up our PHP, and what we want to do is we want to give it a namespace. We'll give it a namespace of sexy. And so the reason that we're only using sexy here instead of sexy app is because this is the folder app, and that is the base namespace. So all we have to do is just specify that it's under the sexy namespace. And then we can give it a class, and this is going to be called app, and it does not extend anything, but we are going to give it a initialize function. Make sure I spelled that right. Yes. And I want to make that public, just specify that it's public, although it already is. I have an ant. And we want to do a couple of things in here. First of all, we're going to set our session cache limiter to be false. And we're going to go ahead and start our session. So that's just called with the session start function. And so how we can use this is, let's go ahead and just echo out hello to see that it works. We'll go into our index.php page, and let me go ahead and close that down. Go to our index.php page, and then we're going to use sexy \app, and then we'll call, let's actually make this a static function. We'll call app initialize like so, and if we come back in here, then we actually see that it calls the initialize function. And so that's how our auto loading is going to work. And so now we can start setting up for routing. And what we need to do in order to do that is create an htaccess file within our public directory. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it out, htaccess. And what we want to do is we want to be able to split up URLs. So like, let's just say traditionally we have a URL structure which is basically like index.php, for instance, and that is actually going to send us to the index.php page. But if we do something like I don't know, count.php, that's obviously not found. But we don't actually want to call files directly. So what we're going to do is, instead of calling a .php and then like passing in a get variable like a count equals 5, whatever, like traditional native get variables and stuff like that in PHP, what we want to be able to do is do something like count 5 and just call it with a prettier URL structure. And so the way that we'll achieve that is, like I said, through an htaccess file. We're just going to use the rewrite engine. So first of all, we're going to set our options to minus multi-views, and we're going to turn on our rewrite engine. And you need to make sure that you have the module rewrite engine on in Apache, which I believe it already is in XAMPP, but the way that you can tell is, well, let me see. We'll just file, open file, and go into this PC, and go into XAMPP, Apache comp, the httpd.conf, and then look for the rewrite engine, or the rewrite module. Here we go. This is it, and you see it's not commented out. This is what you need in your httpd.conf file. All right, so we turn on the rewrite engine, and let me just get out of here. And then we set up some rewrite conditions, and we want to do that on a request. So we do request file name, and we say if that is not a file and not a directory and not a symlink. And then we set a rewrite rule, and then we'll use a regular expression here just to denote that we want everything. So we start a string and end a string, and then we set up a grouping which would be everything. And we pass that through index.php, and we use the URL variable assigned to the environment variable 1, and then we query string append links like that. And so what this will allow us to do is actually be able to parse out that URL using the super global. We'll just echo it out for now. We'll use the super global get, and this is an array which we want to check out the URL. So, well, actually, let's see, get URL. So we'll echo get URL, and I don't want that. And I'm just gonna say hi. So now we see like whatever we pass in through here is actually getting echoed. So if we set up account.php, it's just going to echo out account.php. But the reason that we do this is now we can actually do stuff with that data. And that is where our model view controller is actually going to come in. And obviously, because it's not set, we would just say just if it's set and then get URL like that, then you'd want to do that. So that way we don't get the echo. The hell? Well, in any case, that isn't probably not supposed to be happening. But we did see the get variable or get superglobal URL variable pass through here. So now we pretty much achieved everything that we really wanted to in this video. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.